Welcome to the MSUA Game Changers webcast, where we speak with satellite and mobile connectivity thought leaders about industry trends and share what you need to know about the future of mobile satellite communications. I'm your host, Roger Lanctot, and I'm excited to introduce Doug Harvey, Vice President of Business Development and Marketing for Galaxy Broadband Communications, a leader in delivering its mobile communication network solutions to hard-to-reach areas across North America. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you, Roger. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. So tell me a little bit about the mobile communication network. What are we talking about?
Sure. Well, about a year ago, like kind of the beginning of 2023, or end of 2023, beginning of 2024, it was our relationship with OneWeb, which was kind of the latest entry into the LEO network world. So that now you had a Starlink and a OneWeb. And OneWeb has really positioned themselves as more of an enterprise-grade service provider compared to more of the residential best effort from Starlink. And so it was that, coupled with the emergence of the Kymeta Hawk antenna, that allowed us to provide comms on the go, which was a real change to what was happening in the industry. And then we looked at some of the advantages of the OneWeb enterprise network, which allowed us to do private network slices for customers. So that gave a heightened level of security for people, put them on their own network. And then like Galaxy does all the uplink for OneWeb in Canada. And so we provide all the IP addressing, all the peering to Azure, Google, Amazon, all that kind of stuff, Netflix. And then we also could offer pooled bandwidth, so that you could have multiple sites either sharing one pool where you kind of contend it with your own network, or we can do the dynamic pooling, which means as you add sites on, the monthly throughput gets pooled. So there's advantages to either one, depending on how you've structured, your users. So it was kind of a combination of all those things coming together that really allowed us to put the mobile communication network as a product out in the marketplace. And it's really been a real game changer from the point that it's given different industries solutions that they were looking for. So we did take an example, and we talk about kind of emergency services, and it kind of relates back to the article that you posted a few weeks ago, Roger, saying that that there's a huge demand for emergency services. Not sure that companies are all making money on it, but that's the real issue. Is how do we stabilize communications? How do we allow different companies and individuals to be able to communicate during those times where your terrestrial lines are down, the telco is offline? And so having satellite connectivity is definitely the way to go with that. With OneWeb giving another option to people out there is I think important for people to understand. And then with the mobile communication commercial network, it gives people that extra level of security and flexibility. So the Kymeta was an excellent piece. We've used it now on the New Mexico State Police. We're using it up here in Canada for some of our national policing forces, and national defense in that are using it for comms on the go. It's a rugged piece. You can basically use it anywhere in the world on the OneWeb, and it works excellent. We can provide 100 by 20 megabits per second, and it just works, right? So that's really giving police forces and first responders the ability to have communications during these types of hurricanes or flooding. Galaxy also provided comms to the Jasper Relief Camp. So earlier this year, a huge forest fire in northern Alberta, It burnt a good portion of the town of Jasper. So all of the terrestrial comms were down. And so Galaxy partnered with Horizon. They put a 350-man camp in for Parks Canada people, as well as some first responders. And we provided all of the bandwidth for that. So that was more of a fixed solution, but in a kind of a mobile application that we can move around and be flexible from that. So you're really seeing different kind of levels of connectivity and flexibility and mobility all coming out of what we call as our mobile commercial network.
So another beat on the emergency and first responder side of things. Is there an emerging opportunity out there to, sort of have, I don't know, equipment in place or equipment in use every day that's there, ready to go, as opposed to having to rush something, from a distance into a situation?
Sure. And I think there's a couple of different products that we can talk about. So one is that you could have the Hawk. It comes in a Go case, and you could have that on one of our emergency standby networks. So if you do need it, you pull it out and it sets up within minutes. You're on the internet and away you go. So there's that portable comms on the Go type of aspect. Intellian has a brand new mobile application antenna coming out. There's a half duplex that's very small, size of your laptop. It gives you a 10 meg by 50 meg down. They have the full duplex coming out as well. So there's more antennas coming that can offer different features and benefits to clients. But then there's also Nokia private 5G. And so what police forcing and municipalities are looking at is, how do I equip my municipality and coverage area to be resilient to when my normal communication goes down? So in the area of say a police vehicle, typically they have towers up around the municipality. It's on their radio network to start with. And then often once they get beyond that, they've got a SIM card built into their SD-WAN. And so it would seamlessly move to the LTE that's in the area. What we're recommending is putting on these vehicles, a OneWeb and a solution for that. But also you can take your towers and now you can deploy your own private 5G. Galaxy is a proud Nokia partner. And so what you can do is you could put in it's called an NDAC core. It's really changed in the up until the last couple of years. If you wanted to deploy a 5G LTE network, you're talking $2 to $3 million. That's what the carriers typically put in. What Nokia did is say, no, let's strip that down and make it very, very affordable. So for a couple $100,000, you can get your NDAC core, and then now you just add radios out to your network as you require them. So the cost scale, the network scales based on what your plans, budgets, and deployment looks like. Also in Canada, what we've done is we've taken the band 14, which is the emergency services frequency band, and Industry Canada is making that available basically at no charge for municipalities and first responders to use. And so now they can add these new radios onto their existing towers and have their own private 5G. So it does save them some money, that they're not paying out hundreds of thousands of dollars in SIM card charges to the telcos. It gives them control over their own network. And then what you can do is you can put multiple networks on it. So you can have a police network, you can have a fire network, you can have an EMS network, and you can have a municipal network. So 4 different networks can be operational on this one core. So this brings a new level of emergency services to the municipalities, police, first responders. So I think when you look at a combination of using kind of the OneWeb and the Chimera and Intellian antennas, and then you use the Nokia private 5G NDAC system, I think that really starts to build out a resiliency solution that people are excited about.
But we like carriers. We're working with carriers, right?
Absolutely.
We're not taking business away from carriers.
No, this supplements what the carriers are doing because they already have a contract with the carriers to provide SIM cards so that it goes radio to LTE. What this does is add another level of resiliency that says, hey, when disaster hits and the networks go down, now you have a backup independent network from that, Roger. So it kind of all works in harmony. And you hope you never have to use that, but we've just seen with the horrific hurricanes that's hit in the Carolinas and in Florida, flooding that's happening in California and in Canada and around the world, is that you have to look at multiple resiliency plans, but they all work together. And again, satellite and telcos are working closer than ever together with the D2D. And you're going to see, you mentioned that in your article. They're using that in emergency today. But then now you're going to see it become commercialized in 2024. So, emergency SMS texting is going to be standard kind of in the first quarter. It'll be wide distribution throughout 2024. So texting to sat when you can't get a cell tower is going to happen. 2026 is really going to be your voice, and then 2027 will be video. So that kind of the three kind of stages that's going to go through. And in those time periods, Roger, might change based on carrier and licensing and that type of thing. But it definitely will happen in that sequence.
By the way, speaking of the North Carolina situation and T-Mobile with Starlink, help me understand a little bit. It seemed like the FCC kind of put a thumb on the scale for Starlink. It sort of gave them a break, cut some, red tape to allow for that T-Mobile D2D functionality. Was that sort of on the up and up from, how you look at things?
I think what the FCC did is looked at how can we get comms in there to help the people that were, and there was already some testing happening with the Starlink. So I think it was just the easiest to deploy and the quickest. So I think that's probably why the FCC did it. Now what they'll do is they'll gather that information back. How did it work? Did it work well with other frequencies and carriers? Like what was the pros? What was the cons? Evaluate that. And then really work into 2025 with how do we implement this on a national scale?
Now, of course, you just reviewed some of the more emergency kind of circumstances and first responders, et cetera, and municipalities and their needs. But of course, this solution is an everyday private 5G, proposition for fleets or other applications. What are some of the more day-to-day implementations?
Sure. So if you're talking the private 5G, Galaxy is deploying these into mines. So, mines are, kind of large geographic. They have thousands of sensors and IoT that they want to communicate. Plus you have safety and health issues. So you want to make sure that people are going to areas they should be in, that's safe for them to be in. And so you're seeing a big adoption from the mining industry for that. For instance, if you blow one tire on one of those big, dump trucks and that, it's about $40,000. So you can quickly pay back your investment by having a more, hands-on preventative kind of maintenance on that, Roger. From that perspective, municipalities are looking at using it and tying in, the health centers, education, and emergency services. So they're looking at how do I manage from that? But also ports are using 5G. So they're monitoring the ships coming in, the containers that are on them, sensors are all put on the containers. So now you can track them on a real-time basis. And what the 5G does is it augments the Wi-Fi that's at these ports today. So they can work in harmony, but the 5G can just handle thousands of more connections, as well as way higher speeds that are handling that. When you look at the kind of the OneWeb network that we have for emergencies that we were talking about, that with the Chimera or the Intellian flat panel, we're also using that now for fleets. And so if you're a energy company, say you're providing hydro, you've got line trucks that are out there, and often they go beyond cell coverage and radio coverage. And so now you've got lone worker issues. So by putting one of these small antennas on the roof, now you can go basically anywhere in the US or Canada, worldwide, and be not only having your people safe, but now they can also actually work real time, and they're filling out forms, and they're submitting pictures or reports and that, so they're more productive in that case as well. So we're seeing fleets coming on.
By the way, you said put it on the roof. You mean put it on the roof of the vehicle?
Yeah. So for the OneWeb Galaxy solution, yeah, you just put the small antenna on the roof of the vehicle, on the line truck if you're a utilities company, and now your workers are connected everywhere they go. We're not
talking about like the old days with the salad bowl on the roof. It's
no, we're talking flat panels now, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So so that's going really well. You're also seeing this being integrated into the rail system. And in the US, they've got the electronic track control that's coming in Canada. So trains are looking at how to stay connected. So I think you're going to see an SD-WAN approach from LTE, Starlink, and OneWeb. So you've got the kind of the trifecta there. So it doesn't matter where you go, you'll have connectivity. And so that, so rail is looking for that. And then, it just expands further into marine. And now more and more ships. So it's not just the large companies, now smaller fleets, fishing boats and tugboats and all that can now have those connections. So the prices are coming down, the size of the antennas, because space is always an issue on ships. So that's becoming better. So it's really changing in all these different markets, the way we can communicate.
And obviously, the technology is evolving, from the antennas to the satellites. I think OneWeb is talking about, Gen 2 is on the way. So what is, the next sort of big headline or press release from Galaxy Broadband? What's coming around the corner?
Well, I think you're going to see, it was announced that Telesat is launching theirs called Lightspeed. And with their constellation, again, it'll be global. It's heavily supported and contracted by the Canadian government here. So you're going to see that come into play in 2026, 2027. It's going to have the intersatellite laser that will really lower the latency, and that you can actually link from Canada, go up, go across the satellites, and come down in the Middle East or Europe or whatever at a less latency that you can do with fiber optics through the ocean. So I think that's going to be a change, and Galaxy will be working with them on that aspect as well. But I think you're just going to see overall more integration happening. I think you're going to see multiple LEO providers being used by the same customer for resiliency and redundancy. Also, the technology is getting better for bonding together. So you can take a Starlink and a OneWeb and bond them together. So now you're using both links, but it's there for resiliency as well, Roger. So I think you're going to see that. You're going to see more integration with the telcos happening. And I think you're going to really, over the next couple of years, really see the connected car come into play. And I think that's going to be a very exciting development as well.
Oh, that's bringing me right home to the connected car. Thank you, Doug. Okay. Well, I want to thank you, Doug, for your time today. And I want to thank the Mobile Satellite Users Association for hosting these sessions we're having here. You can learn more about the MSUA at msua.org. Where can we learn more about Galaxy Broadband?
www.galaxybroadband.ca.
Okay. And you can learn how to get our weekly newsletter at MSUA that gives you updates on everything that's happening in the industry and shares information about upcoming events. And you can also find out how to become a member. We look forward to seeing you next time on MSUA's Game Changers webcast. Thank you again, Doug.
Take care. Thanks, Roger.
All right.